What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So my voice is actually getting worse. Hopefully tomorrow it'll be better. But I just wanted to come on, talk about George Santos. He's out. He was just expelled from the House.
Floor of the House of Representatives, where members have just voted to expel New York Republican George Santos from Congress. Expulsions from the House are extremely rare. This is just the sixth time in history of the American democracy and the third time since the Civil War that a member has been removed from office by their fellow lawmakers. Santos has survived two prior efforts to drive him from Congress. But 2 weeks ago, the House Ethics Committee, led by a fellow Republican, released a scathing report saying that there is clear evidence that Santos blatantly stole money from his campaign and deceived donors. The committee referred its findings to federal prosecutors, though Santos was already indicted by the Department of Justice earlier this year. He currently faces 23 federal charges, including but not limited to wire fraud, false statements, and aggravated identity theft. He has pleaded not guilty. Congressional correspondent Nicole Killian is on Capitol Hill. Nicole, now, Santos' tenure from the beginning has been filled with drama down to the very last moment. Tell us about the shifting of the winds this morning and his eventual expulsion.
Yes, well, this all started before Santos even came to Capitol Hill. Of course, there were all these accusations that he had embellished his resume, committed a number of falsehoods and stated lies before he even got to Congress. And then once he got here, of course, as you mentioned, he was indicted with 13 counts, followed by 10 counts later this year. All of this sparked an ethics investigation that ultimately found substantial evidence of wrongdoing and potentially allegations that the congressman may have violated the law, that he used campaign funds for his own personal expenses for things like Botox and designer goods and resort trips. The congressman multiple times in asking him to defend some of those findings, that he would address it at a later time. He continues to insist that he will have his day in court, but now he is no longer a member of this body, as House Republicans overwhelmingly voted to, and Democrats voted to overwhelmingly expel him today. This is the third attempt to try to remove him from Congress. There was just an expulsion vote last month, which failed, but today it is now successful.
The final vote to expel was 311, and I think this is actually good news. I think this resolution to this whole situation was the right resolution. We saw George Santos come in with a bunch of lies, saying, he went to this college and he worked at these jobs, and he lied about pretty much everything, his whole resume. And so I think it's good that he was called on the carpet for that, as well as this investigation that the House did on his campaign finances and how he was using money to stay in Las Vegas hotels, even though he didn't have anything to do. He didn't have a reason to be in Las Vegas. It wasn't for campaign purposes. It was for personal. He spent $3,000 in Airbnb apartments, and he didn't have any campaign functions going on in those areas where he was staying in an Airbnb. So obviously he was using that for personal use as well. They had information that he was on OnlyFans, using campaign finance money for OnlyFans and a variety of different things that he was using his campaign funding for. And so it's the right resolution. I think they did the right thing here. Now, obviously, he's not happy with this. And you had Speaker Johnson actually preside over the resolution, and he's the one that brought down the gavel at the end and, basically called on the New York governor to issue out a special election. And that's what they're going to have to do. So we'll probably see that within the next 10 days. And then the special election, I think they have between 80 and 90 days in order to do a special election in New York. And so now we'll have a new representative. And will it be a Democrat or Republican? We don't know. This district was a heavily Democratic district. George Santos was able to squeak in there and get the seat, but it will probably go to a Democrat, and that will mean that Speaker Johnson will lose a vote in the House. And past, Speaker Johnson needed, he could only afford 4 no votes. Now he can only afford 3 no votes because you lost George Santos. And we saw George Santos just leave. He actually left before they brought down the gavel. So before the votes were finalized, he left. And he didn't say a word, jumped in the car, and was gone. And so I think ultimately this is the right thing. I think hopefully this will show politicians who want to lie. And there's one thing about lying about, or I won't even call these lies, but let's say you want to get something done and you tell the American people, I'm for a certain thing, and you're not able to get that done. Well, I could at least look at that and say, okay, I understand it's not just you. You might be in favor of something, but your counterparts might not be in favor of it, so it's going to be hard to get something done. I can see that. I wouldn't classify that as a lie. However, when you lie about your record, when you lie about things that you shouldn't even need to lie about, like where you went to school and things like that, those are just straight out lies. And that's what we saw with George Santos. And instead of him resigning like I think he should have, he wanted to stick it out. I don't think he had anything left. What is he going to do at this point? I mean, is he just going to, and unfortunately, he could have been thinking, you know what, I'm going to keep bringing in this money, keep this check coming, and get that $174,000 a year. I'm going to continue getting that until they tell me I have to leave. Situations like this, I would think the average person would say, you know what, I don't want this embarrassment. I'm going to go ahead and resign, do it on my terms. But he didn't want to do that. He wanted to leave it up to Congress. He wanted to leave it up to the House, and they have spoken and said that he is not worthy of being a House member. And so we'll see what happens in New York. Obviously, people are going to be watching this race really closely. Republicans still control the House, and they will still control the House even after this, but they will probably have one less vote because most likely a Democrat will be able to take that seat. And it's going to be hard now for a Republican to get in there and run in that seat because you had another Republican in there that was telling a bunch of lies and things like that. So we'll have to see where it goes from here. Just wanted to bring this information to you guys as soon as it happened. And we'll have more news coming later today, so make sure you subscribe, hit that little bell notification. If you guys have any questions or comments, put it in the comment section. I'd like to know what you guys think about this whole situation, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.